was just on the phone with Chancellor Scholz on this particular matter. As it is, we've seen over the past few months that our country and our continent have been submitted to increases in the price of energy, not only after the the COVID pandemic, but also made worse by the war launched by Russia in Ukraine. And in view of what Russia accounts for in terms of energy produced, gas and oil, this is important. In 2022, 25% of all of the energy consumed by the European Union was accounted for by gas, and 50% of those 25% were produced by Russia. So this is where we stand. Very clearly, the macroeconomic situation that started in 2022 and since the beginning of the war in Ukraine have placed a heavy weight on Europe and has made us see very clearly that we could have led our energy transition campaign normally if this hadn't happened. So what we want to do is to secure our gas supply and as soon as possible to speed up our energy transition so as to be able to do without gas and to be able to control the prices of energy and the inflation that has derived from it. In the past few weeks, the gas energy has been multiplied 5 or 6-fold, and electricity prices have hit unprecedented highs with, of course, the speculation that goes along with it. Since the beginning of the war, we reacted unitedly as Europeans, and France was presiding over the European Council, and the Versailles Agenda showed us that we had to try and depart from our dependency on coal, gas and oil, with a strategy that was accounted by speeding up our climate agenda that we call the Fit for 55 package, and the agenda that we carried all through the French presidency at the European Union Council, and that is meant to allow us to get rid of fossil fuels. It will take a few months, but the situation that we're going through comforts all of this and shows we are right. We want to electrify our uses and go towards more renewable energies and more energy sobriety. So these are the pillars of the French strategy and the European strategy. The second element I mentioned is to speed up our transition towards renewable energies in the short run, and the third pillar, which is a contingency, and this required us to diversify our energy sources and producers, including fossil fuels, to face the threat we were confronted with. So we made choices, and some countries decided to reopen coal plants with the authorization that we gave ourselves to maintain thermal power plants in France and opening new gas terminals, some of them in Germany, and in the medium term in France we'll have a gas terminal in Le Havre, which allow us to receive more LNG. And during the same period, we accelerated our diversification by finding other energy suppliers. In a few months, we went from 50% of our gas that comes from Russia to 9% today. And in a more structural manner, we are diversifying our production sources to go towards more renewable energy sources and more nuclear energy. Now, as we speak, we have two challenges to face in the short run. This is a question that many of our citizens are faced with. How can we make sure that there are no electricity shortages, and how can we keep prices down? In the short run, our idea is to face up to the upcoming winter months, and we prepared ourselves. As I asked the government, and all of our services worked on this, we prepared for a scenario of a cold winter and a scenario in which there would be a total stranglehold on Russian gas. These would be the worst-case scenarios, and the objective, which is ours, it would be to have no electricity cuts, no electricity outages, and no gas cuts, and to be able to maintain our economic activity, not to go into a crisis situation. In order to face up to that, we have already taken all of the measures I already mentioned to diversify our energy sources and protect the existing ones. Now, the first element was to store gas to be consumed by households in order to be able to produce electricity. We had set ourselves objectives in France and in Europe. The objective of 80% in Europe that we had set for ourselves is almost reached, and Europe is ahead of time, ahead of the calendar, which goes to show the mobilization of all of the countries. And in France, we're close to 93 or 92% of storage levels for the energy we need. So we've all managed to mobilize our forces and our efforts. We've managed to consume a little less than expected and we wanted during the past weeks, and we've stored enough energy to face the winter months. And the second element, which is strategic, is to spare as much energy as we can. That's what I call energy sobriety. And I want to insist on this point because all of us have a role to play in the matter. And it's a very important one. The best energy is the one we do not consume. And in this respect, the government has drafted a first set of measures, has also prepared a second series of measures, and I'll be very clear. And in the next few days, in the next few weeks, the ministers will explain these measures in detail. But our objective through these measures is to save 10% of what we usually consume. And this is feasible. Just with a very few measures, by being willful, our measures call upon everybody's participation and willingness. And we don't want to be coercive. We've already spared energy, of course, because the energy is more expensive than it used to be, but because all of the citizens are realizing what we need to do. And this is an active mobilization plan. And this will allow us to reach our objective of 10% of energy spent in households, in businesses, and any other activities. And the government is going to detail our plan by sector. But each one of us has a role to play. And a large part of the effort is to lower the air conditioning or lower the heating as soon as it gets colder, and to heat at 19 degrees centigrade, for example. If we make this little effort, all of us, collectively, then I think it will be relatively easy to achieve our sobriety objectives. The government is going to explain the objective in detail. And in my mind, this sobriety blueprint is what is going to keep us away from energy outages. So as you can see, in a way, it's a gradual plan. The first level is a deliberate sobriety, and there will be an explanation sector by sector through communication made by the government, and we're going to try and make sure that each single one of our fellow citizens understands and has the tools. And look at EcoWatt. On EcoWatt, you have a very concrete explanation of the situation in which we find ourselves in France, energy-wise, and bits of advice on how to be very sparing with our energy. So over and above that, there's storing the energy and the sobriety plan by focusing on each one of us's responsibility in the different energy sectors and in the public administration. And the third lever is the European solidarity. Now, I would like to insist on this because we worked on it quite a bit between France and Germany, and I would like to say that the coordination and the solidarity between France and Germany is being established on this matter. We've been working on it since the beginning of the crisis. If I were to make things simpler, I would say that Germany needs our gas, and we need the electricity produced in the rest of Europe and in Germany. So this has nothing to do with war in Russia, but this is a conjunctural situation. And today, nuclear power plants in France are faced with technical challenges that have made the supervisor to ask EDF to maintain several power plants, more than we expected. So this is an extra difficulty in addition to the situation we're going through. So we produce less nuclear energy and we need even more than usual to be able to count on the European solidarity. So we're going to benefit from European solidarity for electricity in the next few weeks and months. And this is going to translate into very concrete things. In the next few weeks, we're going to finalize the necessary gas connections to be able to deliver gas to Germany if it were necessary. Already today, for the first time in a long, long time, France is exporting gas towards the rest of Europe. And this is going to be increased, and we're going to make sure that we stand in solidarity with Germany if they need us. The construction works have been signed in the council we held on Friday, and they will be implemented in the next few weeks. Likewise, Germany has promised its solidarity to France to produce more electricity and to provide electricity to us in peak moments. Solidarity between France and Germany, this is the commitment we made with Chancellor Scholz, and this is part and parcel of the European solidarity. European solidarity was structured by the communications of the European Commission all the way through the summer that called for solidarity between European countries and sobriety. This is to get through winter. Now, if we do this and we manage to implement it, we'll be able to look at the future serenely. Solutions are already at hand if we can live up to sobriety and solidarity and implement those two. Then there are the prices of energy. This is a subject matter of concern for all of our citizens. We have decided on national measures to be implemented. France was one of the first countries to implement these measures for correcting the prices. We set up a series of shields against the soaring electricity and gas energies. We've also implemented measures to run against the increases in fuel prices. And in a way, we've managed to avoid an increase of 50 to 70% of the prices in electricity and gas. France is one of the countries that is most protected against the soaring prices of electricity and gas. And this is the meaning of the plan that was announced yesterday by the government in Germany that is in line with our plan. All this to say that France is one of the countries with the lowest inflation rate in Europe, and so far we've managed to protect our households and our businesses against these soaring electricity and gas prices. But we know that in the next few months we'll be able to be more focused, more targeted, and have a more structured plan to go towards regulating thermal energy sources and to go into our energy transition. Now, this needs to be accompanied by European measures. The Commission is working on this, and I had many exchanges with the President of the European Commission. And we've been working on this for several months already. What I want to say now is that France's position regarding these major acts adopted is that we are in favor of common procurements of gas. This would allow Europe to buy at a lower price if Europe buys for all countries altogether, and Chancellor Scholz seems to agree. We talked about this right now, and we are going to act in line with what we've said. And if the Commission were to decide to cap the price of gas bought from Russia through the gas pipelines, France would support this. I think we need to be consistent with our policy of sanctions to cap the prices. Thirdly, we defend a mechanism of contribution, a European mechanism of contribution to energy operators because the costs of production are much lower than those with sales price. So the benefits made by energy producers, I think, need to contribute. And because of this contribution should be repaid to member states to finance the shield against energy prices. This is the most consistent measure to avoid distortions between European countries, and I think it would be the fairest and benefit to all. If we weren't be able to implement this, we would do it nationally. This is something we've already done with some operators in France, as you have probably noticed. There seems to be a convergence between France and Germany to defend this mechanism of European contribution if we were to agree. In order to reduce the price volatility, we have to fight speculative activity and to be able to control margin calls and other operations on the market that have demultiplied the effect of inflation asked by some of the operators. And we wish to have at least an agreement between France and Germany. Once again, I discussed this on the phone earlier on, and wish that there be control mechanisms of these speculative operations at European level. So much for prices of energy in the short run, and I hope the Commission will be able to complete the work in the next few days. And I would like to say that I fully support all of the work done by the European Commission. In the medium term, that's in the next few months, we have to carry on at the same pace in order to produce as much energy and to diversify our energy sources in France and in Europe. This is why I asked the government to complete legislative bills to be able to go towards renewable energies and more nuclear energy. Today, the pace we have for renewing our energy sources goes to show that we are too slow. I'll be in Saint-Nazaire to inaugurate the wind farm at sea. I was supposed to be there today, but of course I had this imperative, which was to exchange with my German counterpart and to be here today. So anyway, this is a project that is not a new one, and we need to go faster. We need to go faster in the production of renewable energy sources. We need to make things simpler. We are at war. This is a fact, and energy is part of the tools or the instruments utilized by Russia in this state of war. So we have to go faster. Secondly, we need to accelerate the electrification of all of our practices and to go faster on the thermal renewal buildings, changing the automobile park, modernizing our infrastructures and transporting hydrogen in Europe. The third medium-term element is that we need to reform the electricity market. As you know, today, the European market in Europe has two shortcomings, and I think that, or I hope that we can work on it, France and Germany, and we have a real convergence of views between France, Germany, and Italy. First of all, we need to finish the European grid, the European electricity network, and multiply the connections between different European countries so that electricity can run smoothly from one country to another. And the price of electricity on the European market needs to be set very consistently and in line with production costs. Today, the price of electricity is too dependent on marginal contributions, i.e. gas prices in peak moments. So that means that electricity prices can soar and can be completely decorrelated from cost prices of electricity. Some electricity producers make huge benefits as a result of this. So the price of electricity in Europe must avoid such distortions. So these are the three main axes we're moving forward on, and this is what I wanted to explain. This is what I wanted to explain, what the French strategy is, what the European strategy is. And this is going to give way to a set of measures that the Prime Minister and other ministers are going to explain. They're going to explain what we mean when we talk about energy sobriety and all of the different economic branches. And after that, the Prime Minister will launch a set of exercises for the country, the low-carbon strategy, the multi-annual planification of energy consumption, and this will lead us to the beginning of next year. All of this at European level will hopefully allow the Commission to complete its work and explain the result of it in the Commission meeting. And all of this will be explained in the next European Council meeting in Prague, and will allow us to advance together, all together as Europeans. That's what I wanted to say. I'll take your questions now. Mathieu Coesh, BFM TV. Mr. President, you asked the French population, households and businesses to try and restrain their energy consumption and not heating so much or using air conditioning so much. Does that mean that there'll be energy outages or electricity outages or electricity costs during the winter? Now, when we're talking about compensating and capping the price of energy, this means that the caps will be maintained until January. First of all, well, the mere formulation of your question shows that there is nothing that cannot be avoided, and the solution is in our hands. If altogether we manage to be more sober in our energy consumption, there will be no rationing of energy, and no rationing of electricity, no outages, no electricity cuts. If next winter is very cold, and if we can show solidarity with our fellow Europeans, we can very well be in a position to reach this 10% saving of energy consumption. We need to mobilize ourselves all together. I don't want to be coercive. I believe in collective intelligence, and our fellow citizens are fully aware of this. So we're going to take stock of the situation every single week and see where we stand, how high or low our energy storage is, and I want us to be fully transparent and share the information on this. Now, my EcoWatts already gives me an indication as to whether we consume too much energy or not, and we're going to try and use all of the instruments we have at hand to be able to do the best. Now, individually speaking, if every single fellow citizen tries to reduce the heating and not use as much air conditioning when it's hot or as much heating when it's cold, we need to change our habits, behaviors, and we need to change our way of doing things. So these are new habits we're going to have to take on, and new reflexes we're going to have in public administrations, in local authorities, in every single line of business. And we're going to follow up on this. And the next step after that, as we move into the fall and the winter, we're going to see where we stand. If we see that we are not up to notch, then we'll ask ourselves the question and say, now, do we need to be coercive? Do we need to set controls to try and ration energy? That will be in a second stage only if necessary. And I think it's our responsibility, if we are all fully responsible and carry our part of the weight that is to be carried, we won't have to go into that second stage. Now, I don't want to start by constraining citizens and businesses. But if it doesn't go as well as expected, well, we'll see what can be done. We'll have to implement constraining measures in businesses because what we expected hasn't happened. Then there's a further stage after that will be rationing. That means that we will limit the part of energy that is available. That's only if the first two steps don't work. Of course, we'll prepare this with all the sectors, with all the business sectors. This is something we're familiar with electricity and with gas. This is something we're familiar with. But if we are restrictive enough, we won't need to go through rationing. Energy outages is something that we'll only use in last resort. And I'm saying this based on the analyses made by national experts and European experts. I mean, we don't want to frighten everybody here. No, we have everything at hand. And since February last, we did many things and changed many things. And we know that if we can show solidarity and sobriety in our energy consumption, we'll manage to reach our objective. Oh, I forgot to mention prices, of course. Today, we have mechanisms that are very wide-ranging. It's all up to the government and the European Parliament to decide on this. But what is pretty sure already is that we won't be able to have a wide-ranging mechanism to compensate for soaring energy prices in the long run. So the trend will be we'll try and target the support we provide. We will support the lower income families that cannot face up to soaring energy prices. For example, what we do with fuel prices is not targeted. We have subsidies given to oil-producing companies. I mean, it's the simplest policy to be implemented in the short run, but not the most intelligent one. So we're going to have to refocus our support measures to provide support to medium to low-income classes to support them and allow them to carry on working. And we need to use public funds to go towards more structural measures. That is, those are measures that allow us to do away with fossil fuels. I think it's better to use public funds to allow fellow citizens to change cars or to install double glazing in their houses or to invest public funds in supporting either households or local authorities or public businesses or public authorities to go towards this transition. Question: have you discussed the gas pipeline between France and Spain, the former MECAP, and according to the declarations made by your government in the past few weeks, do we need to understand that this is a project that is the project has been dropped? On the MECAP project, I've discussed this with Chancellor Scholz, and I will discuss this with Mr. Sanchez. Well, France supports energy interconnections between European countries, and I say this very clearly. And we fully support this. We're setting this up with Germany. We're organizing this to have a flow of energy from France to Germany. And we're in favor of developing any interconnections that are meaningful. And I'm totally favorable to these. And in addition to what I did to my first term of office, I'm in favor of developing these between France and Spain. For gas connections, I would like us to talk about the situation today. Between France and Spain, there are two existing gas pipelines between France and Spain. And the use of these since February, they are only used up to 53% of their total capacity. If I look at the figures, it's that France is exporting gas towards Spain. So today, as we speak, we're at the peak of a gas crisis. We are not even saturating the existing gas connections. And there's no need for Spain to export gas towards France because it is importing gas from France. And now, all of these are underutilized. So I'm saying this very naively. I don't see what we're trying to solve thereby. I don't understand, frankly. And to repeat what one of my predecessors said, I don't see why we should jump on this solution to say that this would solve the problem. No. If we were at 100% utilization of these gas pipelines, and if there were any additional need to export gas from France to Spain, I would say yes, but that's not the case. Secondly, if we were to decide to go for this mid-cat, there are many opposition environmental reasons, and they're not unfounded. The issues raised by this kind of gas pipeline, if we were to build a third gas pipeline between France and Spain, would this be a solution to our problem? I don't think so. Is this meant for importing gas towards southern countries? I mean, exporting it towards southern countries or importing it from them? This means that Spain would double or treble its imports. I don't believe in that. So I stand to be corrected, but some say that these infrastructures might be useful for hydrogen. I have two reservations to that I would like to share with you. All experts today say nobody says that a gas pipeline will be able to convey hydrogen in the future without very, very heavy changes in the infrastructure of said gas pipelines. And secondly, it would be senseless to transport hydrogen between those countries. It would be interesting to transport low-carbon electricity produced in Spain for electrolysis in other countries. So we need a greater number of electrical interconnections. But I'm not convinced that we need more connections for transporting gas. So, what I'm saying now, I base myself on facts. And the facts are those I mentioned. There are no elements of evidence that this is something that we need, neither today nor in the near future. France is a European country that is a cooperative country, and France believes in European solidarity, and I'll do everything I can to increase the solidarity in Europe in terms of energy. But if facts show that I'm mistaken, and this was explained to me by either Spain or Germany or anybody else. Okay, I will now defend MidCat. And I've just spoken to Chancellor Scholz, and he has not said the contrary. He has not said that we needed an additional gas pipeline. Now, if President Sanchez says the contrary, and shows me elements of evidence, I will change my mind. And it's one from Bloomberg on the compulsory contribution by energy producers. Germany has already done this. Does this mean that in France there will not be such taxes in Europe as a result of the mechanism? In this case, which are the businesses?
All right, you've been listening live there to the French President, Emmanuel Macron, speaking about the energy crisis here in France and indeed across much of Europe. Speaking there about the government plans to avoid rationing as well as how to prevent gas prices soaring for consumers this winter. This all, of course, amid the reduced gas flows coming from Russia towards Western Europe.